this is a probable cause affidavit, and they don't have to lay out their whole case here. They just have to make up probable cause.
They went through a very lengthy analysis of the cell phone. What people have to understand is the cell phone is not like GPS.
That the scientist and the science behind this, when they do match his DNA with the DNA that was found at the crime scene, I think that will be an extremely important piece of evidence. 51% that there was a crime that was committed.
This is Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
Hello, Reporter Room investigators. I am so glad you decided to join me today on Reporter Room. We have so much new information to get into. We're going to be discussing the Bryan Kohberger case. We're going to be talking about 4 main tactics that defense attorneys use to get their clients off the hook. We're also going to discuss how these relate directly to Bryan Kohberger. A lot is being made over whether the media and YouTube are going to interfere with his ability to get justice in this case. Is this true, or is this just a distraction from the fact that Bryan has still not provided the prosecution with an alibi? I'm going to start by saying that Bryan is innocent until proven guilty, and everything I'm sharing is my opinion. Please subscribe. So when it comes to criminal cases, there are usually 4 main criminal defense strategies that criminal lawyers employ. 1. Innocence. In order for Bryan Kohberger to claim innocence, he would have to provide an alibi. The defense tactic has been to stall, to delay, rather than provide Bryan's alibi. Bryan has been sitting in jail since December of 2022. And let me ask you, would you sit in jail for months upon months if you had an alibi? Of course not. So it would seem that the defense is having difficulty proving that Bryan was somewhere else. So let's move on to number 2, self-defense. Self-defense is really hard to claim when whoever did this broke into the home of 4 innocent college students and their roommates who were asleep, or at least in their bedrooms, and did away with 4 of them. It's really hard to claim that you were defending yourself if you broke in to the 2nd floor patio door, did away with Ethan and Xana, and then went upstairs to find Kaylee and Maddie. So the defense cannot claim self-defense. 3. Insanity. Insanity is very hard for Bryan's team to claim. After all, he was a teaching assistant and was recently fired from his job. There's nothing in Bryan's history that claims that he was insane, and all of the teachers and students, although they don't think he was grading female students fairly, according to some sources, no one has ever said that they thought Bryan was insane. So the defense cannot go with this theory either. So this only leaves the 4th and final theory. 4. Constitutional violations. This is the strategy that I believe the defense is using. You see, all of us have guaranteed protections under the United States Constitution, and this is true whether or not we are being charged with a crime or not. It remains true regardless if someone is actually guilty or not. The most common tactic is that the prosecution failed to prove that the defendant was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. By raising questions about the credibility of the prosecution's witnesses, like the roommates, the defense counsel seeks to create reasonable doubt in the minds of the juror so they will acquit the defendant. The relevant constitutional violations can occur from the time that the person is arrested through gathering all of the evidence and all the way up until the actual trial occurs. So Bryan is supposed to be providing an alibi, and his 10 days have come and gone. He's been sitting in jail since December of 2022, and many of us believe that if Bryan actually had an alibi, he would have provided it. Therefore, the defense is doing a tried and true tested method of constitutional violation defense. We see them complaining that the grand jury wasn't impaneled when coverage on this case was at an all-time high. However, most of us in May, when this grand jury case was going on, were focused on the Alex Murdaugh case, the Lori Vallow case, the Letitia Stock case. And this is also true of major television outlets. So to say that this was done in secret and that somehow the media was at an all-time high is silly. But if the defense can create a narrative that says Bryan is being railroaded and that he's not going to get a fair trial due to the media, and somehow turn him into the underdog and make journalism the bad guy, make YouTubers the bad guy, then maybe everyone will forget for a minute that 4 innocent young people were done away with inside their very own home. Someone broke into their house with the sole purpose of doing away with them, and did it in one of the most gruesome and heinous ways possible. In fact, it was so awful that some law enforcement agents reportedly were forced to go through counseling after seeing this crime scene. So, the defense tactic: if you don't have an alibi, blame the media coverage, claim your client can't get a fair trial. When you don't have an alibi, blame the prosecution, say they're not providing everything to you, even though in the same breath you're claiming that you have too much information to go through and you need more time to provide that alibi. Delay, delay, delay while you work to change the narrative. We've seen this in multiple high-profile cases. This worked very well for O.J. Simpson and Casey Anthony. So will it work for Bryan Kohberger? The constitutional violation defense can lead to critical evidence being tossed out because in the United States, the burden rests on the prosecution to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, this doesn't mean beyond any doubt. The defense is going to work hard to get critical evidence thrown out of the case while claiming that the mainstream media is ruining it. Using this defense tactic, they will claim that YouTubers are ruining the case, even though some YouTubers are reporting that they believe Bryan is innocent. And so therefore, their client can't get a fair trial due to the awful media and YouTubers, blah, blah, blah. All of this can often lead to major weakening in the prosecution's case, build up sympathy for the accused, and turn him into an underdog, and this in turn can lead to a hung jury or charges being reduced. This tactic also takes the emphasis off having to provide that all-important alibi. Now, Bryan is considered innocent until proven guilty, but let's not lose the plot. There are 4 innocent college students who are gone forever, and the fact that there is a gag order in place shows that the prosecution and the court are working to give Bryan a fair trial. The fact that there are no cameras in the courtroom show that they are working to give Bryan a fair trial and not turn this into a circus. And if the defense is truly concerned about it, they can put in a motion to move the trial from Moscow, Idaho to a bigger city with a larger jury pool. We see the defense working overtime trying to get that indictment thrown out by claiming that the jury was tainted and the indictment therefore must be tainted. And this is an insult to the grand jury members who probably acted with integrity. And whether this tactic / ploy succeeds or fails, the defense is getting the media coverage on the possibility of the jury being tainted, and all of this helps Bryan Kohberger by portraying him to be the underdog or the victim in all of this. So whether the grand jury indictment gets thrown out or not, we will learn in upcoming days or weeks whether this is going to happen. I think this is something that is commonly done in Idaho, and I'm talking about the grand jury here. I think the defense strategy is to muddy up the waters by putting forward these motions, claiming they don't have all the information, the prosecution isn't providing us with everything, and trying to distract from the fact that they have not been able to provide an alibi. That deadline came and went weeks ago. I know Ann Taylor wants to win, but the next thing, and I just want to prepare you guys of what we're going to see, the next thing we're going to see is we're going to see the defense work to try to impugn the integrity and work of law enforcement. Look for the defense in the future to claim misconduct by the police. They will claim that law enforcement is embellishing the facts, doctoring the evidence, coercing witnesses, or using unreasonable force on individuals who are cooperating. And look for them to try to dirty up the 2 roommates, Bethany and Dylan. And along with all of that, expect to see lots of complaints about the media coverage, lots of complaints about YouTuber coverage, and even though there's a gag order in place and cameras have not been allowed in the courtroom, all the defense has to do is raise that reasonable doubt. They don't have to prove Bryan is innocent. What other tactics and strategies have you seen deployed in other trials? Please subscribe.